The voice in the static. The radio in Mark's truck had been broken for years, just static. But that night, driving home through the fog at 2:46 a.m., it crackled to life. Mark, don't go home. He nearly swerved off the road. The voice was calm, familiar, his own. He stared at the dial. The signal was faint but steady, buried under layers of white noise. Listen to me, the voice said again. If you go home, she's not going to be there. Not really. Mark's throat tightened. What the hell is this? You won't believe me yet, the voice said. You think you're driving home from work. You think it's Tuesday, but you've done this already. Over and over, Mark turned the knob, desperate to change stations, but every frequency was the same. His own voice, whispering warnings, growing more distorted the more he tried to tune it out. Pull over at the next gas station. Do not go home. The fog thickened around the road, swallowing the world. He could barely see the yellow lines now, but he recognized the next turn. It led straight to his neighborhood. He hesitated, then forced a shaky laugh. It's just some freak messing with a signal. I'm fine. As he turned onto Maple Drive, the radio screamed. Not static, screamed, like a recording of pure pain. Then silence. When he pulled into his driveway, the lights in the house were already on. His wife's silhouette moved behind the curtain. Relief washed through him. He stepped inside. Hey, honey, he called softly. She was in the kitchen, facing away from him. Same hair, same pajamas. But when she turned, her smile didn't reach her eyes. Long night? She asked, her voice just slightly off. Mark froze. On the radio in his truck, still idling outside, a voice whispered faintly through the static. His voice, breaking and desperate. You went home again, didn't you? He turned back toward the kitchen just as she spoke again, in perfect sync with the radio. Don't worry, Mark. You'll remember next time. Then she smiled wider, too wide, and everything went black. The patient in room 313. Claire's shift at St. Agnes Hospital had run long. She was new, fresh out of nursing school, and everyone loved to dump the night shifts on her. Still, she didn't complain. Not out loud, anyway. It was nearly 2 a.m. when she noticed the chart for room 313. The notes were strange. Patient. Unknown. Status. Observation only. Instructions. Do not engage. Claire frowned. Observation only? She muttered. What does that even mean? She asked the charge nurse, but the woman's face went stiff. Stay out of 313, she said flatly. That patient's complicated. But curiosity is a dangerous thing at 2 a.m. When she passed 313, she noticed the door was slightly ajar. The light inside flickered weakly. Against her better judgment, Claire peeked through. Someone sat on the bed, thin, pale, back to her. Electrodes covered their arms, but the monitors were dark. No beeping, no pulse line, just the faint sound of breathing. Hello? She whispered. The patient didn't move. Claire stepped inside, just enough to glance at the vitals monitor. Dead, completely flatlined. But the breathing continued, slow and steady. Are you awake? She asked. The patient's head twitched. Then slowly, agonizingly slowly, they turned toward her. Claire's breath caught in her throat. It was her. Same face, same hair, same tiny scar above the left eyebrow. But the eyes were empty, black as oil. Claire stumbled backward, slamming the door. The monitor suddenly came to life, emitting a long, sharp beep. She ran for the nurse's station, stammering. Someone's in there. Someone that looks like me. The charge nurse's face went pale. You saw her? What do you mean? Claire gasped. The nurse grabbed her by the wrist. Room 313 has been closed since the fire last year. The woman in there, she was the nurse who died trying to save a patient. We don't know how, but she shows up every few months. Always as whoever's been assigned to this floor, Claire's voice trembled. That's not possible. The nurse didn't answer. She just looked down at Claire's ID badge, half melted, the photo blackened with heat damage. Claire blinked, confused. That's not mine. The nurse's eyes filled with tears. Yes, she whispered. It is. When the morning staff arrived, room 313 was empty. No patient, no nurse, just a single burned ID badge on the floor. Name, Claire Bennett. Deceased, July 12, 2024. The last broadcast. The emergency broadcast had been looping for 2 hours. A flat, robotic voice repeated over the static, "This is not a test. Please remain indoors. Do not look outside. Await further instruction." Derek sat alone in his living room, clutching his phone. No signal, no internet. Just the endless warning and the occasional flicker of the lights. He peered through the blinds once. Just once. The street lights were out, but something moved between the houses. Slow, shuffling shapes. He couldn't see faces, couldn't even tell if they were people. He slammed the blinds shut and didn't look again. Around midnight, the broadcast changed. If you are hearing this, you are one of the remaining. Help is on the way. Stay calm. Then, static. Then, another voice. Softer. Uneven. They're not coming. Don't open your doors. Don't trust the... The voice cut off with a shriek. Derek turned off the radio, heart hammering. He couldn't stand the sound anymore. The silence afterward was worse. He could hear something outside, though. The crunch of gravel, footsteps moving closer to his front porch. A slow knock followed. He froze. Another knock, harder this time. Then a voice, calm and measured, came through the door. "Sir, this is Officer Reynolds. You can come out now. It's over." Derek hesitated. "Can I see your badge through the window?" A pause. Then, "There's no time for that." It's safe now. Derek backed away. He remembered the broadcast. Don't look outside. "I'm staying in," he called. The voice outside changed slightly. Same tone, but not quite human. "Derek," it said, "you don't have to be afraid. You can come out now." He hadn't told anyone his name. He spent the rest of the night hiding in the hallway, the thing outside occasionally whispering through the door, always calm, always patient. When the sun rose, silence. He waited another hour before stepping out. The air was cold and still. The street was empty. He found his radio on the floor, still buzzing faintly. Then, a new message crackled through. To anyone still listening, do not respond to voices claiming to be human. They can only copy the ones they've already taken. Derek felt his stomach drop. He turned slowly toward the front door, where muddy footprints led inside. The reflection. Mara hated her new apartment from the moment she moved in. It was cheap, though, and she was desperate. The place smelled faintly of bleach, and the bathroom mirror was oddly tall, stretching nearly from the sink to the ceiling. On her first night, as she brushed her teeth, she noticed something strange. When she leaned close, her reflection seemed just a half-second behind. A blink delayed. A twitch that wasn't hers. She laughed it off. Old mirrors can warp, she told herself. By the third night, she couldn't ignore it. Every time she turned off the light, she'd catch a flicker of movement in the glass. Her reflection still smiling after her own face went still. Once, she swore she saw it tilt its head, curious, like it was waiting for something. She tried covering the mirror with a towel, but it always slipped off somehow by morning. On the fifth night, Mara woke at 3:17 a.m. to a soft tapping from the bathroom. 3 slow, rhythmic knocks. Tap, tap, tap. She sat up in bed, heart hammering. "Just the pipes," she whispered. But then came the faint sound of laughter, a breathy giggle, from behind the bathroom door. Mara grabbed her phone and crept closer. The doorknob was cold. Her reflection was waiting for her on the other side. She could feel it. She flung the door open. The mirror was dark, like smoke trapped behind glass. Her reflection was gone. Then, slowly, it walked back into view. It didn't match her movements. It lifted its hand when she didn't. And then, with a wide grin that split its face too far, it reached forward and touched the inside of the glass. Mara stumbled back, screaming, and ran out of the apartment, not stopping until she was in the parking lot. When she returned the next morning with her landlord, the mirror was perfectly normal, clean, still. "You sure you weren't dreaming?" the landlord asked. Mara didn't answer. She just wanted her things so she could leave. As she packed her suitcase, she noticed the mirror again. Her reflection stood exactly as it should. But just as she turned away, it winked. Mara froze. Then the reflection raised its hand, holding a small gold key, her apartment key. Mara checked her pocket. Empty. The mirror wasn't a reflection. It was a door. And as she watched, her reflection smiled wider and wider, until its lips pressed against the glass. Then, with a soft crack, the mirror began to open from the inside.
The babysitter. The Andersons' house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, the kind of place where nothing bad ever happens, at least, that's what Emma told herself. It was her first night babysitting for them. The parents had left around 7 p.m., leaving her with their 6-year-old daughter, Lily, and a list of rules that seemed unnecessarily specific. Don't let Lily stay up past 9. Don't open the basement door. If you hear knocking from upstairs, ignore it. That last one made Emma laugh nervously. "Is this some kind of joke?" she asked. Mrs. Anderson's face didn't move. "Just follow the rules," she said, and left. By 8:30, Lily was tucked into bed. She was a sweet kid, but quiet. When Emma turned off the light, Lily whispered, "You'll stay where they can see you, right?" "Who?" Emma asked. Lily hesitated. "The ones in the walls." Emma forced a smile. "Good night, Lily." By 9:15, the house had settled into silence. She sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, trying to ignore the creaks of the old house. Then, knock, 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 from upstairs. Her stomach tightened. It was probably pipes. Or the wind. She remembered the rule, ignore it. But the knocking came again, louder this time, deliberate. Knock. 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 She stood, heart pounding, and crept to the bottom of the staircase. "Hello," she called out. No answer. Something about the sound, it wasn't coming from a door. It was inside the walls. Emma grabbed her phone and started to dial Mrs. Anderson's number when she heard another sound, a faint whimper. "Lily!" She ran to the bedroom. Lily was sitting up, wide-eyed. "They're getting angry," she whispered. Emma's throat went dry. "Who?" Lily pointed toward the wall beside her bed. "The ones Mommy keeps down there." Emma froze. Down there. The basement. Before she could move, something began scraping from inside the wall, slow, dragging fingers across plaster. Then the doorknob to the basement began to rattle. She bolted, grabbed Lily, and ran out the front door, heart hammering. She didn't stop until they were across the street. When the Andersons' car finally pulled up around midnight, Emma rushed to meet them, trembling. "There's something in your house, something in the walls." Mrs. Anderson looked at her calmly. "You let her out, didn't you?" Emma blinked. "What?" "She doesn't like it when the door opens." Before Emma could respond, Lily spoke softly. "Mommy, she heard the knocking." Mrs. Anderson sighed. "Then you know what happens next." Lily reached for Emma's hand and smiled sweetly. "It's okay," she said. "You can stay with me now." When the police came the next morning, they found the Andersons asleep in their bed, unharmed. The only thing missing was the babysitter. But the neighbors started complaining a week later about the knocking coming from inside the walls.